Okay, guys, we're gonna get started here in just a sec. Okay, so what I've done, today's gonna be short. I've got, we just kind of picked up where we left off from last time. This is kind of physical science. And so 16, it just gives you a statement. The amount of heat energy flowing through the Earth system, such as the atmosphere and ocean, affects the global climate. Which change would increase the amount of heat energy in the Earth system, potentially affect climate? So it says an increase in the reflection by the Earth's clouds, maybe an increase in the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, a decrease in the absorption of the Earth's surface, a decrease in the methane in the atmosphere. Okay, so it's asking what change would increase the amount of heat energy in the Earth system, potentially affect climate. So basically it's saying what's going to make it hotter, okay? And some of you in class, remember we did basically a video, and I think we've done a couple worksheets on this about the sun. And basically we talked about carbon dioxide. And really what that does, there's the thing called the ozone layer, and that really absorbs some of the sunlight. And that kind of keeps us from, we can still get sunburn from the ultraviolet rays, but the ozone layer really tries to basically eat up some of that sunlight. So carbon dioxide that's what comes out of our car, and that's what's kind of putting a hole in the ozone layer. So by looking at this, and methane is a gas also. So methane and carbon dioxide are both gases. So the one that would potentially affect climate the most would be B, carbon dioxide. And this is one of those too, you guys. If you don't have any idea, if you weren't in class or didn't remember doing that reading, and this one comes up to it, you're just going to have to read the question, and it's about the Earth's global climate, excuse me, and what change would increase the amount of heat energy. So what's going to make it the hottest? And really, if you're looking at those A, B, C, and D and have no idea, you're just going to have to make an educated guess. So if the Earth's surface basically decrease in absorption, that means the Earth isn't absorbing as much sunlight. But that would probably be a secondary effect. There's some reason why the Earth isn't absorbing as much of the sun or the heat, and that would be basically because of B. Okay, so this one's going to be tricky if you guys don't have any idea about that. But hopefully, you know, we've gone over this and you have a pretty good idea of there's three, like methane and carbon dioxide. Okay, let's go on to 17. Which example is best supported by natural selection? And this is kind of like survival of the fittest. A person is immunized with a vaccine to prevent infection from a certain disease. That's not really natural, because usually these vaccines are, you know, they're made in a lab with chemicals. That wouldn't really be natural. A dairy farmer breeds certain cows to produce the greatest amount of milk in the herd. Maybe, we're going to say maybe B. Horticulturists cultivate orange trees, produce large seedless fruit. Okay, that's not natural because, you know, most oranges have seeds in them. So something's been modified if we're growing oranges without seeds in it. So it's not going to be that. So we're down to B, and here's deer mice with light fur survive, produce more offspring than deer mice with dark fur. Okay, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about yesterday with that tiger, the Siberian tiger, has the heavier fur, the fat in its belly. So deer mice with light fur survive, produce more offspring than deer mice with dark fur. So this is just about basically, you know, a deer mice with light fur. And that would probably be the best example of natural selection, okay? Because B, eventually, I think there's going to be something that makes those cows produce more milk. because I think all things equal, cows will produce the same amount of milk unless you change something genetically. So for 17, we're going to look at D as going to be kind of our best example of natural selection. Okay, and then we're going to go to 18 here. A single house in a rural area uses a well to obtain groundwater for household use. A large housing development will be built on unused land next to a single house. The household water for the housing development will also come from groundwater. So basically what that's saying is most of us have city water. We turn our faucet on and the water comes out. There's not really a well. We have like reservoirs in Rochester. Some of you have probably seen the one in Cobbs Hill, and I think that might be the one for the city. So all the water is stored in there. But when you live outside of city limits, you basically have to put a well in that goes down into the ground and pumps water out. Okay, so in this one, you live in a little house, you've got your own well, and you could maybe dig down 20 feet and you hit water. But what this is saying is there's going to be a housing development with, like, say, maybe another 30 or 40 houses in that same thing, and they're all going to be using a well too. So because a result of that, what's going to happen? The groundwater will become lower due to the increased demand. Well, we know there's going to be increased demand because instead of one house, now there's going to be 20 or 30 using that same source of water. There will be a little change because groundwater is recharged by natural rainfall. That's not entirely true because a lot of the rain basically is absorbed before it even hits the ground. Okay, and remember this well is going down 20 feet, so it had to be an awful lot of rain for it to go all the way down like 20 feet. The groundwater will rise because the groundwater will flow towards the wells faster. If we know anything about gravity, water won't flow uphill. Okay, so we're going to kind of cross that one out. And if you think about it, Cobbs Hill, it's a pretty high point, and that's where the water is, and it flows down into the city. Okay, and there'll be no change because more groundwater flows in to replace what is removed. So if you put a pump into a lake and start pumping it out, eventually that lake's going to get pretty low. And the same thing with this, instead of one person into that basically source of groundwater, there's going to be, 30 houses. The groundwater will become lower due to increased demand. So it's going to be A would be the correct answer. And this is one, you'd maybe just have to kind of think about these. And just by process of elimination, you're just going to cross answers off. And B is a little bit tricky, but if you think about it, like I mentioned, the well is probably, 20 feet down. And, when it rains, really, maybe it just gets the top of our lawns a little bit wet, but it doesn't really seep all the way down. And the other one I use, like if you can think about even like a bathtub, if you put a pump in there and start pumping water out, the water's not going to replace itself. And groundwater will rise because groundwater will flow towards the wells faster. That's just kind of, like I said, water doesn't really flow uphill, it goes downhill. So that's why you have to put a pump in there to pump it up out of the ground. So you could probably just do process of elimination and get to A as the correct answer. Okay, that's all I have today. You guys, what I think I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna start, because we've gone over questions for a while, I'll go back to like posting actually an activity, and then we can just kind of go over it as, a group, because, judging from this, some of us probably need to get a little more content so we're able to answer some of these questions. I mean, we've gone over them in class. People have been coming to class. A lot of this is stuff we've covered. But for some of you new people, I want to make sure that you're getting some of the content that we did cover in class. Okay, well, everyone have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.